And then last one here, actually from the chat, Jeremy says, coaches, and give me a PayPal if you can here, Emily. This is an interesting question. Coaches, I'm currently at T1 on a long call on PayPal. Wondering your thoughts on letting it right up to T2 at 300 bucks.
Love this question. The momentum T1 target. Where do we go? Honestly, and who asked the question, Jeremy?
Jeremy
Jeremy.
Johnson.
Jeremy, that was a fantastic and beautiful question. The appropriate question as you're approaching that target at T1. And remember, whenever you're trading the step system, and I'm assuming this was the breakout of the 50-day moving average in the previous pivot, Jeremy, of the consolidation right around 250. And so T1 would be the previous pivot right there at about 274, 275, somewhere in that range. I would have to be running the chart to give you the exact, but in that range, Jeremy. And so you want to, you obviously, anytime you, let me put it like this. There are three ways you got to make a decision. But at T1, it's a decision. At T2, it's a little more simple. But at T1, you have a decision. And that decision is, do you allow the momentum simply to carry through T1 with an attempt to get into T2? And when you make that decision, you're making that decision truly based on intraday analysis and momentum on the daily chart. And so with PayPal, you have momentum and an increasing volume condition going into target one. And so with that breakout of the 50-day moving average, you currently are overextended as you approach target number one. Pull up RSI if you need. You don't need to do it right now, but if you need pull up RSI, that will confirm that overextended situation with PayPal. Obviously, the space is also overextended right now. So you do have an overextended environment, no doubt about that. But you don't want to just say it's overextended, so let me lock in profit. Some of those trades you look back on, you allowed to run. You allowed them, like the Fed is allowing inflation to run hot. You allow PayPal or your version of PayPal to run hot, but you make that decision based on the momentum. And as I'm looking at PayPal right now, you had a gap up today as you approach target number one. That is a sign of strength, especially with the gap is happening on the overnight action. And then when you look at the cash open today on that 30-minute chart, you'll see the cash open also got gobbled up. And then the only thing that transpired here is you formed a little bit of profit taking on the intraday, and then that got gobbled up on the intraday analysis. And so you don't have any selling really transpiring here, Jeremy. And because you don't have any selling and you had that gap up on the futures, you had the gobbled up on the cash open, the intraday analysis is there's nothing to really be concerned about here. It would be absolutely reasonable for a trader to say, let me simply allow PayPal a little bit of room to breathe and see if it truly does want to take off. And you have that analysis to support that decision. Now, that's the first thing you got to decide is whether or not you simply want to allow it room to run. And I do think the analysis on PayPal leads to that conclusion. However, as a more conservative trader at T1, Gino Poor would say, it's never a bad thing to scale out of the position, though. And so trader number two, so trader number one says, I'm going to allow PayPal a little bit of room to breathe. I'm going to allow it to an opportunity to break out and run, and I'm going to maintain my stop loss underneath an intraday level that is secondary. So if we'll come back down to that 30-minute chart, you wouldn't even put a stop loss above that current pivot on the intraday. You would put a stop loss probably all the way under like 265-ish in that scenario. You want to give it room to run. In scenario number two, where you have more of the conservative trader, circa a Gino Poor at Tackle Trading, who is, I was going to say infamous, but not famous for locking in profit, right? I mean, he will lock in profit to go to a risk-free trade. And the reason he does that, guys, is he wants to ensure that he removes the emotion from the trade by mitigating the risk and by locking in a portion of the contracts that allows you to lock in the risk because you're now in a profitable situation. So a trader like Gino Poor would say at T1, I'm going to scale out of the position. I'm going to, let's say we have 4 contracts hypothetically. I'm going to take 2 contracts off the equation, lock in that profit while I simultaneously adjust the stop loss to a fairly aggressive stop loss placement. And so you want to scale out of the position, lock in a third, a half, 60%, whatever that number is for you, lock in a portion of the position while you adjust the stop loss to a more aggressive position on that intraday chart. And so for me, coming back down to that 30-minute chart, trader number 2, the more cautious conservative trader, would scale out of the position at T1 while adjusting that stop loss most likely underneath 272, maybe 270 if you wanted to give it a little bit of room to breathe. That's trader number 2. And then trader number 3 is the trader that says, I don't care what happens in the future. I got target number 1. I'm locking in profit, and I'm going to wait to allow PayPal to set up again, and then I'm going to re-hit it. Now, whether you're the ultra aggressive where you're just going to give it room to run, whether you're the in the middle and you're going to scale out and adjust that stop loss, or whether you're the ultra conservative type and you're just going to lock in profit and reassess the situation on the next consolidation breakout. Whatever you do, Jeremy, do something, because the only mistake you can make here is to walk away. You got to do something. And when I'm looking at the analysis on PayPal, I certainly would not just walk away from the trade and just lock in profit. And the reason is very simple. You have momentum going into target 1. Typically, when you have momentum and the intraday analysis is supporting that analysis, you should allow it a little bit of room to breathe. I love the scaling out approach here. It reduces your risk, it reduces your exposure, but it also reduces the decisions you're going to make from an emotional perspective, because now you've locked in some of the profit. Give the other side of the equation, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6 contracts, whatever it is, give that a little bit of room with the stop loss under 270. And I hope that detailed answer helped Jeremy navigate this trade.